2:07.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to get started. Actually, it's a little bit past time. Happy New Year to everybody. We appreciate you being here today. This is the Kendall County Bernie Fair Oaks Transportation Study Committee. We're starting a new year. Hopefully, this will be our final year, final partial year after several years. All these chuckles over here with those groans. We have a few members missing today due to a variety of things. Of course, John Kite is still out preparing for a knee replacement, and Northern Hendricks is under the weather with cedar fever. Rich Senna is at a funeral and may join us shortly, so we may have a few others that come in. There's old Ben Eldridge. So we appreciate you being here. In looking at my calendar, I'm hopeful that we can establish middle of the year as our target to wrap this effort up completely. That may sound a long ways off, but in reality, we only have 13 more meetings if we use all of the every other Tuesdays available to us. So we have a lot of work to cover. We have a lot of stuff done, but we need to start making some decisions and getting things finalized. So look forward to that. Today we have a few action items. Do we have a quorum yet? Betsy's here, and I think we do now, don't we? 1, 2, 3.
9, 6, 7, 8. We got 9.
Okay,
Plus you and I.
we'll wait one more until we get one more committee member to take any action. So that's all my opening remarks, Mr. Chair. Co-Chair.
I echo the Happy New Year. Let's hope 2022 is a little different than the last 2 years have been. At least one of our attendees is staying out of the room for fear that cedar fever might really be covering Omicron. So it just brings me to repeat things we talked about a few months ago. This thing's not over yet. We are still facing kind of a runaway contagion in our community. And if anybody feels a need to exercise extreme personal cautions about it, please feel free to do so as you see fit. Any response, every response to how you want to handle it is going to be acceptable to this committee. So thank you for being here. Stay safe, and let's get going. This has been a big day, a long time waiting. We'll get to the rest of it later, so looking forward to what's on the agenda for today.
Good.
Thank you.
Any other opening remarks? Steve, start with you. Jonah? Jeff, anything?
Negative.
Eldridge?
I've got them.
Bitsy, Rich, glad you could make it.
Yes.
Opening remarks? Okay, well, I think we do have a quorum now. The first item to consider is the approval of the minutes of November 30th, which should be at your place. I think we have all the pages this time, not every other page. We also have the minutes of December 9th, should be at your place as well. Should you like to approve those as well? We'll consider those.
Were the other minutes on the table back there?
There are no minutes on the table.
Okay.
Do you need some more?
I have December the 7th. Is there another?
Yeah, there's a November 30th.
Thank you.
Related to November 30th, there's a spelling error, I believe, last paragraph, page 7 of the
Say again, Gary.
I'm sorry, the last paragraph of page 7, there's a spelling error, I believe. First word.
Brian.
Should be Brian. Other than that, I move to accept as presented.
Second.
Any objections to accepting the minutes of November 30th with the correction offered?
I'll I'll second it.
Seeing none, they're approved.
Does it need a second?
Well, I think
Actually,
somebody
Bobby
over,
did.
Bobby seconded it and Bitsy seconded it as well.
Sorry.
Thirded.
Any comments on December 7th?
So move to accept.
Bitsy, you want to second that?
I'll second that
Okay.
one.
I was waiting, but
Sure.
Any objections to accepting the minutes of December the 7th? Seeing none, minutes are accepted as presented. All right, we come to our first opportunity for public comment. We have two opportunities, one at the beginning, one at the end. If you would limit your comments to 3 minutes, I'd appreciate it, and I will let you know as you approach 3 minutes. Lance Kyle?
Morning, everybody. Committee members, my name's Lance Kyle. Address is 226 Cascade Caverns Road. I'm in the Bernie ETJ. Just have an observation. We've got a lot of plans floating around lately. We've got the Bernie Thoroughfare Plan. We've got the Fair Oaks Ranch Thoroughfare Plan. We've got the Bernie Transportation Master Plan. We've got the TxDOT Gateway Study. We've got the AMPO Regional Plan. We've got the Economic Development Corporation with their own plan. The City of Bernie has their master plan. You know, everybody's carving up the terra firma around here. They're putting lines on maps, hockey stick projections into perpetuity. We're going to keep growing like 2013 to 2019 did, you know, like gangbusters. You know, nobody's looking before 2013 when we had all those busts. They're also not factoring in, you know, some of the downsides. You know, we can control, we can import water, we can import electricity from San Antonio, we can import labor in some situations, but we really can't control some of the trends, some of the technological trends. We can't control the economic factors. We can't control, especially the demographics, and this is what's going to end up biting us in the proverbial patootie. You know, we're going to build all these structures, we're going to build all these buildings, but millennials are not having children. They are not having children. Not having children in this country, not having children in foreign countries. China and India are actually imploding, you know, in the last few years before COVID. Their population is collapsing. Even Mexican birth rates are falling. So, you know, right now, even in Texas, the native birth rates by couples are at 1.7. You need 2.1 to keep things flat. So immigration, believe it or not, with the border stuff that's going on, immigration is falling off. External immigration. Internal migration from California and New York, of course, is strong. That's the third leg of the stool that's propping up this land rush. Illinois, you know, Texas, Illinois, California, New York last year lost about 700,000 people. I believe half of those came to Texas. But what happens when the millennials in those states, you know, have no kids or only have one kid? It eventually that's going to falter. You know, when is Texas going to peak? That's the real question that the demographers have to ask. You got to listen really closely. And correct me if I get this wrong, Rich. 3 minutes?
Actually,
Just one closing thought. Please listen closely when Rich is saying, look, we can tell you what's happening in the next 3 to 5 years based on the build out of these, you know, subdivisions that have been approved, but we really don't know after that what's going to happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lance. Kevin Henning?
I'm Kevin Henning, 175 Skyland Drive. First, I want to thank Bob and Don for chairing the committee and the whole committee for doing this work for what's 3 years now, huh? So that's great. And in February of 2020, I raised an issue about an intersection, and this happens to be the intersection right by TxDOT. It's where North Main 87 rolls up, and you can go on to I-10, exit 537. You can also go straight on 289, or you can go left towards Ranger Creek. That is a problem intersection, and I would like to ask the committee to take another look at it, because I think it can bite us. And I, of course, live and you come through there a lot, although I'm diverting now to Shooting Club and heading on down to Sisterdale Road to get back onto North Main. What's happened last year is TxDOT installed blinking lights, and I wrote a nice note to my commissioner, Don Durden, and thanked him for that. And not being a politician, he told me he didn't do it. So TxDOT did it, and the problem is it's made it worse. Those blinking lights, you have two red blinking lights on east-west that go across 87, but there's blinking lights on 87. So some people who are unfamiliar with the road will actually stop, thinking they need to stop or yield. Somebody will try to go across. A car from the other lane will come whipping through, and that creates a tremendous accident exposure. And actually, my wife and I witnessed a real close call. It was like by a foot or two. So I'd sure appreciate if y'all would take another look at that. And I have sent notes to TxDOT, and I've put it back on your website, which is a great tool. And if you take a look at that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henning. Ms. McCarthy.
Wanda McCarthy, Ammon Road. For some of you that were here on the 21st, this is a repeat, and I apologize for that. But as we head into controversial subjects, I felt it needed reiteration since the attendance at that meeting was so low. I want to offer a non-standard solution to the standard TxDOT loop around every Texas city that needs a bypass. I'll provide maps for people that don't have it already, but it's a solution that the initial price tag may seem daunting, but when you consider all the benefits, I think that overwhelming price tag will be mitigated. I'm promoting a dual roadbed, raised roadbed over the Herf Road extension as a primary substitute for the extension of the Highway 46 bypass. It honors the presentation that the Herf Road extension was originally sent to do, to be the 46 bypass. It was sold to this community to be that. It would allow that to be there. It would negate two cities working with TxDOT to take land against primarily county residents. And those residents don't have a voice in those two cities, and they can't vote those people out that are making decisions that are contrary to their livelihood and their life investment in this community. It offers a kind of correction to transportation during flooding episodes. The Herf Road, the bypass, 3351, none of those were set up. The bridges across the Cibolo were set up correctly to handle flooding situations. If you had a raised roadbed bridging over all of that area, it would mitigate having to redo work that's already been done. It offers solutions that eliminate decades of litigation and forcing of eminent domain on property owners that hasn't even happened yet, but is being threatened, because a standard solution has always been the first one. There's mapping, as Lance said, on 3 major websites and multiple other websites that cut across people's land, weren't told about it when they were written, and offer all kinds of problems for those people that own that land. It eliminates outside entities using our community to directly benefit their traffic problems, trucking industries, San Antonio, the AMPO. It eliminates special interests from making deals with governmental entities to, although they're stated for greenfields roads, we've seen time and time again that those greenfields don't stay greenfield. A developer comes along and makes them their own, and then the problem is compounded with traffic. A bypass along with this enhancement of the right-of-way that already exists with the county, the city, the state, 3351, Highway 46, all of those are already available. They need to be expanded as they've been presented to have been done. Those expansions have been put on hold. And lastly, the cost to this community for buying land by the square foot over some of the most ecologically sensitive land, has been told to all of us by experts, and even potentially harming the very water we drink. I think with those issues and the items that I've presented as a positive can mitigate that daunting cost of a bridge work. Thank you. Anybody need a copy?
Wanda, did you say you had a copy?
I do.
I was one of those missing. Yeah, I was missing that day.
I'll take one. Yeah.
Here you go. Oh, thank you.
Two. Wanda?
Rich.
Oh. Yes.
Thank you.
Did you have a question, Mr. Kyle?
Yes, Don, just a quick question. This is being videotaped, right?
Yes, and I thank you for pointing that out. It is through the miracle that is the Bernie IT department. This is a Zoom meeting, and we appreciate their hospitality and their expertise in making this happen. So the world is watching. Behave yourself. Any other public comment before we move on to the rest of the program? Okay, very good. We'll have another shot shortly. Well, I'd like to introduce Mayor Greg Maxton from the city of Fair Oaks. Greg is here today with his city manager, Tobin Maples, in the back of the room there, to tell us about transportation from the perspective of Fair Oaks Ranch, which is one of the, actually, Greg is speaking to us. He's our boss. He's one of our three bosses. But he wanted to come make his presentation today. They've spent some time collaborating within the city of Fair Oaks so that they could speak with a unified voice. We look forward to your presentation. And you're not limited to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Durden and Chairman Manning. Thank you both for allowing me the opportunity to be here today, and to all the other committee members. It's a privilege to be here and provide information to you. As Chairman Durden mentioned, I do have some backup that I brought with me today. Tobin Maples, our city manager. Raise your hand, Tobin. We have our Public Works Director, Grant Watanabe. And also Mike Garza, who is our GEC for transportation issues. Hopefully with these individuals, we can answer any questions that you may have. The briefing that I've put together primarily comes from the Fair Oaks Ranch comprehensive plan. This was laid out 5 years ago and basically describes what it is that we see as the future of transportation, primarily related within Fair Oaks Ranch. As I go through the presentation, there is some basic information in it, probably something that everybody already knows. I just ask you bear with me as we get through it. It helps me to describe the picture that I want to present as our development continues. And the purpose, as Chairman Durden mentioned, the briefing today is really to present what it is from the perspective of Fair Oaks Ranch related to transportation. But I see it more as guidance, and really we needed guidance to our representatives as to what we see that needs to be brought into the Kendall County, Bernie, Fair Oaks Ranch Transportation Development Plan. And questions, as we go through this, I prefer to take questions as they come up. So if you do have a question, or I guess if anybody here has questions, if you let me know behind me. But I think it's appropriate to address it as the information's coming up. And then I do have an opportunity at the end of the brief for any other questions. I set up the brief to last about 30 minutes. We can take it as long as you want to answer all the information that you want. Did I miss anything? All right. So the takeaways of what I see as part of today's briefing, number one, Fair Oaks Ranch supports a regional master thoroughfare plan. And I think when Mr. Kyle was up here, he was talking about the multitude of transportation plans that are out there. What I would see is that one master thoroughfare plan that covers the entire county. There is increased development going on in the area, and with increased development comes increased traffic. My belief is that we need to address it. We have opportunities now. There's flexibility to look at the options that are out there to address traffic. The longer you wait, the fewer options that you will have to do this. And I believe it's more effective and efficient to address it as far ahead as possible. Doesn't mean you have to take action on it. It just means that we address it so that we know what the opportunities are so that we can handle the traffic efficiently. And as part of a thoroughfare plan, I believe it's needed to integrate the needs and the responsibilities or the requirements of all parties involved and come up with one master thoroughfare plan that provides a method of handling traffic efficiently across the county, as it would be here. And the presentation I'm going to give is primarily from the perspective of Fair Oaks Ranch, which I guess would be expected with me up here. So when we look at transportation planning, what stands out? To me, first is meeting the needs of the community. That could be retaining the Hill Country appeal, which is really one of the reasons that we all moved here. We enjoy this community. We enjoy the life that we have here. And as we address transportation issues, we want those to meet the needs of the community first. Second is we want to move traffic efficiently. And so once we've determined what the needs and requirements of the community are, then we look at how can we move traffic efficiently. And along with this, we want to consider the environmental factors. I think that's essential to the area that we live in. It may be stormwater runoff. It may be the karst features that we have in our area. It may be our underground aquifer systems. But all of this needs to be considered as part of any transportation planning that we're looking at for the future, especially with new roads and new developments that are going in. And then last, with new or making improvements to any of the transportation assets that we have across the area, I think it's important to look at multimodal transportation. We do have a community of people that want to get out and bike, that want to get out and walk. And these type of opportunities can be provided to our road systems. As I look at it in the Fair Oaks Ranch community, we definitely want to add it to our area. And as we link into the county and even into Bernie, I think there's opportunities to provide bike trails or walking trails that can go along with the transportation for vehicles that we have throughout our area. So in painting the picture, what I want to talk about is the characteristics of Fair Oaks Ranch. And for me, what is it that makes Fair Oaks Ranch unique? As I go through some of these, you'll identify that really it's what makes the Hill Country unique. And so it applies more than just to Fair Oaks Ranch, it applies to the entire area. And one is our Hill Country appeal. It's a reason, as I mentioned earlier, that a lot of people want to move into this area. They like the Hill Country, they like the aesthetics of what you have in this area. For Fair Oaks Ranch, we've maintained it in a semi-rural nature environment. We have large lots, we have horse farms, we have 5 to 10 acre lots in the northern portion of our city. And even in the southern portion, we have 1 to 2 acre, 3 acre lots. It's what Fair Oaks Ranch was really built around. We have a unique parks and trails system throughout the city that links all the neighborhoods across the city. The trail system is a walking and a horse trail system. It goes across the entire city. And then we also have 3 parks, we really have 2 parks that are being worked on as we receive more families into Fair Oaks Ranch. These parks have been more utilized. And then we also have a preserve on the east side of Fair Oaks Ranch that is a walking trail system that is maintained in its natural habitat. These are all unique features to Fair Oaks Ranch. And then, of course, in the hill country, we have unique wildlife. And with the large lot systems that we have in Fair Oaks Ranch, we want to maintain most of these animals that we find here as wildlife as part of Fair Oaks Ranch. And the last perspective that I'll bring up related to Fair Oaks Ranch is that we are primarily a housing community. It's around 15% or lower is what is our commercial development in Fair Oaks Ranch. 85% or higher is family dwellings, or our club feature that you can see on the map. So when we identify the transportation needs, I think one of the things we need to, as I draw the map, first, this is the city limits of Fair Oaks Ranch. And then what you see is these are the county boundaries. And Fair Oaks Ranch has the unique opportunity of being in three counties, which provides us a lot of opportunity to work with different individuals within the area. Although I would say that we are primarily linked with Kendall County, is who we work with mostly. Our closest relationship, I guess I should put it that way. So when we look at the transportation needs across I'll say for Fair Oaks Ranch, if you define the systems of transportation that are available, the first is the arterial streets. And arterial streets are made up to move heavy traffic at high speeds, really from the place where you live or you work at to other areas. And primarily the other areas could be work, they could be medical appointments, shopping, recreation, dining, any of these areas. The arterials that we have in our area, I-10 to the south of us, and then we have State Highway 46 to the north of us, and then FM 3351 or Thoroughfare Road to the east of Fair Oaks Ranch. Along with this, then we have collector streets. Collector streets connect arterials. It's a way to move between arterials or a method to move from where you live to get to an arterial or from where you work to get to an arterial, etc. The collector streets that we have in our area, we have Ammon Road. Ammon Road connects State Highway 46 with FM 3351. The second collector that we have is Dietz Elkhorn Road. It also connects 3351 to I-10. And then we have the Fair Oaks Parkway. And the Fair Oaks Parkway connects Thoroughfare Road 3351 to I-10. So now that we have the picture, what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about future development. So development, it continues to happen. Now, I'm not a fan of development. I'm not promoting development. And I would believe that most of the people, I'll say that most of the people that live in Fair Oaks Ranch would like to stop development. I mean, if it's a possibility. I'm not sure that, I would assume that outside of Fair Oaks Ranch, those that live in the whole country would like to stop development also. But Texas is a property rights state. And as a result, those that own property can sell it to whoever they want. And if a developer buys that property, then he can develop it. And he can develop it within the rules and regulations, the building codes, building requirements that are related to the entity where the property is located. So in Fair Oaks Ranch, we have a unified development code. We have building regulations that control development within our city limits. At the county, they have their own county requirements, and then Bernie has their own requirements also. So wherever that land is being developed, they fall within that, and they can develop that property. Some was talked about earlier about the future development. If we look back, and I even pulled it from the BISD briefing that was given recently that showed the demographics that housing requirements in our area have gone up, our building of housing has gone up 34% in the last 2 years. It just means that we have a lot of development going on within our area. As we have this development, I believe it's critical to look at what are the transportation requirements related to this development and plan for it now. As we plan for it today, it provides us, as I mentioned earlier, more options. Once development goes in, it limits the capability to provide any other collector streets to get to the arterial streets, which is the primary factor. It's ease of transportation is what people want. They want that capability to move from their neighborhood to the points where they shop for food, where they go to work, and they want to do this as quick as possible. And when those opportunities present themselves, those will be primary areas where development can occur. And the last point that I put up there, and what I get faced with a lot in Fair Oaks Ranch is, prepare for the future versus promoting growth. So if we look at an area and we say that, or we believe that a lot of development is going to go into an area, and we define and say we need to put a road through this area and this is where it needs to go, and that road is put in prior to development, does that promote development? Well, it probably does. But I would define it more in that it would accelerate the development. I believe that in some of these areas, development is already going to occur. It's just how fast will it occur. And if you provide means ahead of time, then it may accelerate that development. It'll happen quicker. But in some cases, it'll happen in a means where transportation has already been provided, and provided in a means that is suitable to meet the requirements of the city or the county in which it's located in. So this is a map of some of the development that I'm tracking that's going on. I think of what is major to me is all the development that's going on along the I-10 corridor. And right now there's an apartment complex that's going on just south of Fair Oaks Parkway in front of the Napa Oaks subdivision. We have Lemon Creek Ranch that's planned. This is another family or multifamily complex, apartment complex that's going in just outside of Fair Oaks Ranch. Just off of the Deeds Elkhorn Road. They've already started laying the utilities for this. And then I've heard proposals for Lily Ranch. In Fair Oaks Ranch, we have 2 housing communities that are going on, proposed for development. And then we talked about George's Ranch is another development that's being looked at in the northern area, north of Fair Oaks Ranch. Lemon Creek Ranch, and why I focused in on it specifically is its location, almost right in the middle, right on the I-10 corridor. It's being built on the access road. And it's right between Fair Oaks Ranch and Bernie. and then everything that it provides as part of Lemon Creek Ranch. The number one thing that stands out for most people that live in Fair Oaks Ranch is an HEB. And it'll be closer than the HEB that is in Leon Springs. It'll be closer than the HEB that's located in Bernie. And so it'll be, my belief, it'll be highly utilized by the people that live in Fair Oaks Ranch. Some of the other things that stand out to me about Lemon Creek is it's got residential features, it's got restaurants, it's got retail shops. To me, in similarity, it looks almost something, what it provides is what the rim provides, but at a very smaller scale, but here in our area.
Mayor, I'm sorry, can you either back up or identify the boundary streets where Lemon Creek is?
Sure. So this is Lemon Creek Ranch right here. So it's right at the end of Dietz Elkhorn, right on the I-10 corridor. Does that help?
I know where it is, but I was trying to figure out, is that, okay, what's this?
And this is my belief, is that because of everything that Lemon Creek Ranch provides, this will accelerate or promote growth around it. I'm not a developer, I'm not a transportation expert, but when I look at this and look at everything that's available within this community, I would believe a developer would look at this and go, how close can I get to this? And build a corridor, a transportation avenue that gets the people that I'm building houses for into this area quickly. Because people
Greg,
will...
and just to make it clear, this is in Bear County.
It is in Bear County, that's
we
correct.
We have absolutely no control over what they're doing at this location.
Correct. But the impact of what they're doing in this location does affect Kendall County.
Right.
Because it's right on the...
Your point, Greg, literally on the other side of the creek, is that not where Lily Ranch is?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Mayor, I know you asked for questions
Sure.
while we were doing this. One of the things we've talked about a fair bit is how different nodes for commercial activity and the like, in some ways, could really help with some of our transportation issues. The HEB in Bernie is an incredibly congested and crowded area right now. Providing an HEB right there could really help alleviate some of that congestion that we're having because of everybody traveling from Fair Oaks, say, to Bernie to come to our HEB.
Yeah, that's a great point. And not only the one in Bernie, but which doesn't impact us, but would probably alleviate some of the congestion down in Leon Springs also. But yes, a great point. But what it'll do is add congestion into this area. Key point with Lemon Creek Ranch is I believe it's a promoter of development. That you'll see development spur off of this as others look to all the opportunities that are provided by it. So now I'll back up a little bit and talk about the impacts to Fair Oaks Ranch. And these are the areas that I'm going to talk about. Ralph Fair, FM 3351. TxDOT has come in. They talked with the city several years ago. There are plans to expand Ralph Fair Road. I mean, we're already seeing increased traffic on Ralph Fair Road today. My understanding is that the expansion of Ralph Fair Road and the cost associated with it, the state has not funded that yet. As we look at it, my belief right now is that this project is probably 10 years down the road, at least. What they have funded is the bridge, it was talked about earlier, is the bridge that crosses the Cibolo Creek along FM 3351. This has been funded by TxDOT, and we're looking that the bridge would be, they're going to raise it, and this will be done in the next 2 to 3 years. Right now, that's what we're looking at. There's 2 points of significant congestion along 3351 that I've identified right now. One is at the Fair Oaks Ranch Elementary School. And if you're driving along there during the time frames of when either school starts or school's getting out, you have people that are northbound on 3351 that are trying to make a left turn into the parking lot there. And what they'll end up doing is backing up traffic northbound on 3351, which really is a safety-related issue. It's a school zone going southbound, so they find the opportunities that they can turn into the school. But northbound, people driving 55 miles an hour plus, heading into stop traffic on the road is a safety concern to me. And then if you ever drive down Ralph Fair Road all the way to the I-10 intersection, and if you do it early in the morning or late in the evenings, southbound on 3351, as it gets to I-10, you'll hit a big congestion there, and sometimes I've even seen it back up all the way around the curve towards Camp Stanley. In that area, you could end up waiting 2 to 3, even 4 times for the lights to go through before you'll make it through the intersection. Oh, and I did put on there, when the time comes and TxDOT wants to come in and expand this road, Fair Oaks Ranch is prepared to start working with TxDOT, because what we would like to do is influence how that road is expanded as it goes through Fair Oaks Ranch. And we have some concerns. Already Ralph Fair Road is fairly noisy as where it goes through the city. There are ways that we can mitigate this. We'd like to work with TxDOT to do that. There are some safety-related issues that we'd like to incorporate. And there are things that we would like to integrate land use-wise and in complementary with what we want as part of Fair Oaks Ranch as a part of 3351 as it goes through the city. And so we really plan on working with, incorporating with TxDOT in the planning of this in hopes that we can integrate some of what we want as part of Fair Oaks Ranch where this road cuts through our city.
I may be getting ahead of you on this, but have they clarified what they plan to do with 3351 in terms of expanding it?
They have not. My understanding right now is it's an expansion to a total of 4 lanes, but I've heard consideration of even up to 6 lanes or 4 lanes with a middle turn lane. But the one thing that we know is it's a TxDOT road. And so TxDOT gets the decision on how they want to expand it. What we would like is that opportunity to influence it where it goes through our city. As we look at, I know there's a lot of talk about making 3351 the primary north-south corridor through our area. And I put this map together just to show some of the mileages located with the arterials and the collectors within our area. And from right here from Ammon Road intersection at 46 all the way up to where 3351 and 3351 and 46 intersect, 7.7 miles. It's 4.6 miles as you make it back down to Ammon Road, 7.1 miles. This is it's 12 miles total from the intersection of 46 down to I-10. And you add this on, you've got about 19, 20 miles if you made the entire loop. One of the things that I'll talk about here in a minute is Ammon Road is a collector that connects 46 to 3351. This is a savings of about, it's about 10 minutes in drive time if you take this connector over here to make the trip down. And that is
going to
all the way up 46 to 3351. Yes, good question. And then the other thing of note is that it's about 8.8 miles from the intersection of Ralph Fair Road all the way up to where Main Street, or is that Main Street, connects with I-10. So as we look at 3351 as a primary connector, north-south connector, the concern to us is the amount of traffic that will be picked up by Ammon Road. I really see this as one of the primary connector streets between Bernie and Fair Oaks Ranch if you're trying to get to 3351. One of the things that stand out in this area, the dangerous intersection where Ammon Road intersects with 3351. If you've been in the area, as you're traveling eastbound and trying to cross 3351 from Ammon, if you're traveling eastbound on Ammon and crossing 3351, that side of it is not too bad. But if you're traveling westbound and trying to cross 3351, it's an uphill, angled turn that provides many blind spots. And I believe at some time that intersection will have to be reworked to reduce or to make it more safe. The other thing that we'll look at is the sharp 90-degree turns that are in the area of Ammon Road in between 46 and 3351. And if traffic does increase on this road, those 90-degree turns are not appropriate for the amount of traffic that we would have in the area. And then I'll talk about a cut-through that provides an opportunity that people are already using. On here it shows the city limits of Fair Oaks Ranch. This is the far east end of Ammon Road. The yellow line that's coming down, this is Ralph Fair Road. And this is Ammon Road. And where it starts, the 90-degree turns, this is all within the city of Fair Oaks Ranch. And then it crosses over, I believe that's San Antonio ETJ that's up in that area.
Mayor, so you have on the northwest portion, your stair step, are you up against, thank you, Mr. Communications here next to me. Are you next to Bernie's ETJ, or do you have any ETJ to your northwest?
We do not have, there is no more ETJ for Fair Oaks Ranch. And primarily, I believe this is identified as Bernie ETJ in this area. I'd have to go to the maps. Yeah. There is a transition somewhere up in this area where it goes back into San Antonio ETJ.
Okay, thank you.
This is the cut through. This is Rolling Acres that comes down through this area, and then this is Meadow Creek Trail that gets down to 3351. By taking this cut through, it will save you about 2 minutes from going straight out to 3351. And this is identified. A lot of the people that live in Fair Oaks Ranch know about the cut through. I'm advertising it right now, so more people are going to learn about it. But it's interesting of how many people that live outside of Fair Oaks Ranch find this cut through. And what a concern to Fair Oaks Ranch is that this is a residential road. This is a neighborhood road. And these are ranch areas, 4 to 5 acre or larger home sites located on this road. It's a small country road, 2-lane road with no shoulder, and we do not want to increase traffic on this road. And the more people that come down Ammon Road, and if it were to stay in this configuration to get out to 3351, the more people that are going to identify the cut through, and the more people will take it. Because of ease of access, I can save 2 minutes. And people do it. In the other area, these are lines on a map. This does not identify any specific road network that we're currently looking at. And honestly, what I should have done is shaded the entire area and said, I believe somewhere in this area, we may need to look at a future opportunity to move Ammon Road past the first, most northern 90-degree turn in a more direct route to get it out to 3351.
Is that the George Ranch area? Or
George Ranch is more to the west.
But the reserve is in that northeast quadrant, correct?
The reserve is in this area right here. Sorry, I'm not very good.
And that's potentially 300 to 600 homes?
Yes.
Is that WCID 4?
No,
3?
George's Ranch is WCID.
it's WCID for the George's Ranch is north of Ammon Road entirely.
It doesn't even touch.
And north and west of what view you see right here.
Okay,
North and
thank
a bit west. It's not on the screen.
I really scaled in on this map, so
It's okay, it's okay. But there is a development going up in that direction, but not any further in this zone here. In other
right
words-
now there is a development agreement that has been signed, has some issues with it, but for development to go in this area, which
Is
is
that the
what
development that
Mr.
doesn't
Senna
have-
was talking about.
Is that the development that doesn't have water yet?
They currently do not have water.
Okay.
But the rest of that northeast quadrant that's now in the city limits of Fair Oaks Ranch would be under your zoning guidelines, correct? And under Kennel County?
In the northeast,
Well, that area adjacent to the reserve. The rest of that land, which has been, that's all been annexed into the city? Or most of it's been annexed in the city?
Hatched areas.
so that shows the city boundaries.
Okay.
for
So
Fair
you
Oaks
would have
Ranch.
you would have control over development that goes on in that area? The commercial development, say, for example, or, who defines the,
Within the, yes. So within the city limits of Fair Oaks Ranch, we do have a unified development code
okay,
that prescribes development within our city.
thank you.
Outside of that, which is San Antonio ETJ to the east, that would fall under Bear County.
Okay.
Did I answer all your questions?
I-
Mr. Senna and-
May I ask it another
Sure.
way? So when you talked earlier about Fair Oaks Ranch being 85% housing,
That's correct.
who manages that percentage? In other words, if someone were to buy into this parcel that's been scripted out around Ammon Road, who would manage what happens in that area? Is that you,
Well, it's the city, correct.
the city?
And
Yeah.
what we've done is, through our Unified Development Code and our future land use map, we have already zoned all of these areas, and everything is zoned housing.
Okay,
And in this area, it's actually zoned 10-acre lots,
okay,
is what we're looking for in this area.
all right, thank you.
And do you all have a thoroughfare plan already that would specify a road, through that area?
We do not. As part of our comprehensive plan, what it lays out is something similar to what I have here, but all we're saying is that we believe there should be a more direct route somewhere in this area off of that first most northern 90-degree turn to get to 3351. Now, one of the benefits of doing something of this nature, of routing traffic here, is that we bypass this cutoff, which then diverts traffic away from utilizing it to get to 3351.
Right.
Yes, sir.
You have a question back there?
Yes, sir. Or ma'am, sorry.
Back a minute. What was the part that you said was designated for 10-acre lot? That one?
So under Fair Oaks Ranch and our Unified Development Code, our zoning and future land use map, all of this area that's up in here, well, except for the reserve, has all been zoned on our future land use map for large acreage lots.
With that exception?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Because there was a development agreement signed on it before our future land use map was established. Good question. Thanks for the clarification.
Is the developer going to participate in the cost of the road that you're suggesting be built to avoid the problems you identified?
A possibility, yes.
What was the
We
question?
can the developer, as normal, developers contribute to major thoroughfares, collectors that are being put in through the area. The question was, would this developer contribute to that? Nothing has been designated now, but it could be negotiated in the future.
Okay, I know that another problem we have is these isolated communities that there's no other way into one major artery. Are you changing your city plans to require sort of multi-access to big neighborhoods so that we don't have
it's a requirement now that you have 2 accesses. Yes, ma'am.
So, I heard you voice your concerns for the citizens of Carroll, which is your job, for Rolling Acres and Meadow Creek. If, for instance, people that live on Ann Ranch that have, large acre plots that face out into Ammon, the presentation that you're making is that those people are going to bear the burden that you want to eliminate from the Fair Oaks residents. And since they're not your residents, you're basically shoving a problem out into the county that protects your residents. And as a citizen of Ammon Road, I have a hard time saying that Ammon Road should be used for everybody's bypass, but hey, don't use our road. When in fact, many people from Fair Oaks use Ammon Ranch as a racetrack, especially in the morning for the children going to Champion.
Right.
So, it's a public road. I don't mind, you pay taxes to the community, and the community produces a road. It should be utilized. I agree. But one section of the community shouldn't be bearing the burden in excess of the other area. And also, people in this area need to be cognizant that that's a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, much like Rolling Acres is 35 and Meadow Creek is 30. All of those things should be respected for all the community.
I believe that the traffic is going to continue to increase on Ammon Road.
As you said, that there's a 17-mile loop. How many people from Ammon are going to get on Ammon to do that extra when they could go 2 miles over to I-10 and get on I-10? If we correct the I-10 entrance and the connectors, why would anybody go from Esperanza all the way over here, all the way down here, and all the way down here on a less miles per hour route with much more congestion than going directly to I-10? So I don't see the benefit of making I-10, Ammon Road a speed track and eliminating the neighborhood quality of people who have invested in that area. And for what? For the high schoolers to get back and forth? Because really that's the traffic that's going back.
I think you bring up a key point that I'm going to talk about later on is a connector from Ammon Road or 46 that goes down to I-10, which I believe is what you spoke about.
No, I spoke of something completely different than that.
Well, wherever the connector happens, I believe you talked about it as being Herf Road and finding.
We already own that land.
And if that's an option, right.
I am not for Greenfield Road cutting across people's private land. I think that's a lawsuit ready to happen for this whole community.
But I agree with the point that you made is that if there were a connector in that area, if it is Herf Road, why are people going to use Ammon Road? And my belief, they won't. It's a more direct route. It's the ease of transportation from getting from your neighborhood to those arterials where you want to move throughout the city.
And it's the connectors. I mean, the committee has talked about that many times. It's the connectors, it's the intersections that are a problem. You fix Herf Road, Esser, and 46, and you fix the last quarter of a mile from the Herf Road extension over to I-10, there would be no problem. And there would be no thousands of acres of land affected by this community.
And so in my belief, that then becomes another north-south connector between 46 and I-10.
That quarter acre.
Yeah, however it happens, if it's Herf Road and really, as I'll talk about it later, it's outside the city of Fair Oaks Ranch. And so we really don't get, we can opt out our preference, but we really don't get a play in the decision on how it's made.
And neither do those landowners in the county.
But we're all interested in everybody's perspective. So, I think these are the tough issues we're going to have to resolve as we move forward between now and June. So,
The other area that we look at, a collector street that runs right through the middle of Fair Oaks Ranch, is Dietz Elkhorn Road. It's about 3 miles. It connects 3351 with I-10. It's pretty much a straight shot, and honestly, we anticipate a traffic increase on this road will occur, and especially with the introduction of Lemon Creek Ranch and the apartment complexes that are going in on the northernmost western part of the road. One of the unique things, it is a collector street, but Dietz Elkhorn is also a neighborhood street. On the most western portions of this street, we do have residents that have their driveways that come off of Dietz Elkhorn and lead to their house. What Fair Oaks Ranch right now is looking at, we have no plans for expansion of the road, which is a little contrary to me saying that we anticipate more traffic. But we do look at an upgrade to the road, and we do look at an upgrade to the multimodal transportation related to this road. For us, that would be bike traffic, pedestrian traffic, and for us probably include golf cart traffic along the side of this road.
Mayor, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
I just want to follow up on what Ben Eldridge asked earlier about a thoroughfare planning process.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that has been, to me, so valuable about the city having a process like that is that it does not use eminent domain, and that it enables us to plan for and have road segments built as part of development agreements. And not to get you off track or back you up, but I'm just curious if Fair Oaks Ranch has had conversations about embarking on such a process or had thoughts about that. Just as a resident of this community, I can say that I've found that process to be valuable because we don't have to confiscate people's land to build roads. And as you see property developing, it's built out as the developments happen.
Right.
And yeah, it seems to be a useful process. So I'm curious to just if you can address that briefly.
Inside the city of Fair Oaks Ranch, we really don't have any other areas that we're looking at for major collectors across the street. I think what we've laid out with Ammon Road, the Fair Oaks Parkway, and within the city, we have other major roads that are connector streets, Keeneland Road and Dietz Elkhorn Road, all provide those means for getting across the city. As developments or go in, I think then we're looking at how does the development go in that connects their neighborhood roads to our collector streets. So those have already been established. To me, what you bring up is a good point in that I talked earlier about future planning and laying out the possibilities of what is available. So if we're looking at a connector street between Ammon Road and I-10, and if we were to plan that out today, is there a way that, and of course, again, I'm not a transportation planner, but I look at it in a logical format. Is there a way that we could purchase the right-of-ways today, not build on it, but just have something that's already laid out and planned so that we know where the road wants to go? We're not taking land from anybody, but when that land is sold and developed and turned over to the developer must build that road within the right-of-way that was pre-planned and purchased.
Right.
So prior planning, to me, it's getting ahead of it. It's developing those requirements of what we think best suits the community.
Yeah, one minor distinction is that with the thoroughfare planning process, we're not preemptively purchasing the land.
Right.
It just puts into place a requirement that if the land subdivides and is developed, that's when the development plan has to include a road in that area.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, normally what happens, so you may have it in, if you don't have a pre-planned road that encompasses the entire area, a developer comes in, they're going to find a way to make the connection from their community that they're putting in, whatever neighborhood it is, to get it to the major collector street within the area. They may have to extend a collector street to get in there. if multiple developments go in and they all contribute to this, there's no pre-planned collector street that's identified. It's all contributed to by each of the developers making that connection from their development going in. And so you may end up with a road that is maybe not straight, maybe doesn't contribute to the hill country environment of what we want within our area, and ultimately may not provide the most efficient means of providing transportation within the area.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, I would agree. That's our experience as well. I was just thinking about your example for the Ammon Road section that was within the city limits of Fair Oaks. If the city had any tools to encourage developers to provide a pathway that aligns with the city's goals there.
Well, it was a question that was asked her earlier. I mean, one is with we already have a development agreement that does not have specifications related in it. There may be possibilities for something down the road related to it. I don't know. Maybe not. But there are other portions up in there that we could work with landowners. And maybe it's even working with landowners today to buy rights. If they ever do decide to sell that land, that we have the first option.
Mm-hmm. Like a right of first refusal or something.
Right.
Yep.
Just for the roadway within that area.
Yep.
Just so we're not embarking. Nobody wants to go and take land from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
We want to do the right thing. I mean, and right now they're all residents of Fair Oaks Ranch. We want to treat them like the residents that they are.
Thank you.
Fair Oaks Parkway is the other collector street that I spoke about earlier. It connects Ralph Fair Road and 3351 with I-10. What's unique about this is it is a collector street, but it is also a neighborhood street. And I talked about Dietz Elkhorn having that capability. Well, this is actually a neighborhood street. It's a widened collector street, but there are houses all along Fair Oaks Parkway from where it starts on 3351 all to where it dead ends at I-10. This is not a road that Fair Oaks Ranch desires to have heavier traffic on. In our look at it, it's a neighborhood street. And so we have no plans to expand this street at all. And we may look at areas of where we can increase pedestrian traffic along it or provide other opportunities where we can connect to the trail system that runs throughout our city. And then the last, what we've already talked about a lot, is the collector street that runs from Ammon Road to I-10. And what was put out earlier, if Herf Road is an example, I mean, I shaded this area. It's the area that was identified. You know, this could be carried forward all the way up to where Herf Road is at. I think what we're looking for is that opportunity, a connector street between 46 and I-10 that can move traffic north-south. And the benefits of that are, I believe, to everybody, to Bernie, to Kendall County, and to Fair Oaks Ranch. And there is a benefit to us in that it takes, what my belief is, it'll take some of the traffic that we see traveling Ammon Road to get to 3351. So I don't identify where I believe the road should go. I don't know where it should go. I mean, honestly. I just believe that as we see growth, as you see Lemon Creek Ranch going in at the southern portion of that shaded area, that we will continue to see growth spur off of it up to the north. And then at the top of that, you already have Esperanza, and was it Lily Creek, a subdivision that's going in. And I believe that those will continue to spur off other developments, and eventually we'll see development all within this area. Will it happen tomorrow? No. But will it happen over several years? My belief is that yes, you will see development.
I have a question. Jeff Carroll, can you go back to that last slide, and can you just quickly tell me How much of that shaded area is in either the Bernie city limits or the ETJ? Just without seeing it overlaid on a map right now, I was trying to recall.
So you can kind of see the area where Cascade turns into Old Fred. There's the white line that has a bunch of zigzags.
Right here.
So south of Old Fred, so that area there is Old Fred, Old Fredericksburg. That area south is outside the city of Bernie ETJ. That's actually San Antonio ETJ. But besides that, the rest of it is all Bernie.
Bernie or ETJ. And within the ETJ, we are able to do the thoroughfare planning process or
Correct.
not? Okay, just curious. Thanks.
So these are my conclusions. Fair Oaks Ranch supports an alignment of the county and the cities in the master thoroughfare plan. We believe it's the right thing to do. By all working together in determining how we want traffic to travel through our area, I believe as a group we can come up with a better plan of how we want to efficiently move traffic through our area. And that complements the needs and the requirements of all. Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure what you're not saying you're supporting the alignment that's proposed by the city and the county, because there is no alignment right now. You're just saying that the city and the county should have an alignment that is coordinated together.
That is correct.
Okay, just to make sure everybody understands that.
I thought that's what we were all working
Yeah,
towards.
we are. I hope so.
So yes, we do support that, and yes, we'd like to get to that point. One of the things that stands out for everybody in Fair Oaks Ranch is that we want to retain what makes Fair Oaks Ranch unique. I talked about those earlier. One is the character of the hill country. I think that should always be considered in everything that we do as part of transportation planning, development, whatever it is. The more that we can retain of it, the better quality that we have within our communities. We strongly consider means that reduce environmental impacts, whether that's on karst features, our aquifer system, or stormwater drainage. I believe should always be considered in any transportation or development issues that we do within the area. And I talked about how we move or consider traffic is first with the needs of the community, and then look at how we efficiently move traffic. And then last, I talked about planning and preparing now provides us more opportunities than if we wait. We could just stand back and watch it happen. And then when the time comes and we're pressed with finding a solution, we'll have less opportunities of how we can come up with a resolution. If we look at it now, and we identify what are the capabilities that we need and to put plans in place, we can reserve opportunities. We can find ways to make it happen without imposing upon landowners during this time. But we can find a way to make it happen the most efficient way. Those are my beliefs. And that concludes what I have. Any questions?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you. That was a very informative presentation. Right off the bat, I see some potential conflicts of highly desirable outcomes for transportation rubbing right up next to significant environmental concerns, especially in that Cascade Caverns area. We heard from an expert in karst that particular area is probably the wealthiest in terms of karst formations in all of the United States. So if you had to choose a second option to avoid that conflict, what would that perhaps look like?
Several things that I considered, and honestly, it's just my thoughts. I mean, are there ways that a road could be put through that area that doesn't impact karst features?
That question was asked, and his answer was, I wouldn't do it.
So even raising a road, an elevated road.
If you could get one to hold itself up. That's how porous it is what we've heard from Dr. Vinny.
Well, not having all the information, I mean, it's pretty open-ended question, but yeah, I mean, I would try to find, I believe a connector is needed. So if you go further west, And if it is all the way to Herf Road, if that's an opportunity, I don't know. But, yeah, if you're asking me the question, should all opportunities be looked at? I agree with that.
Okay.
Should we look at every opportunity that's a capability? I mean, again, it gets back to we want to meet the needs of the community first. And so karst features and the environmental impact, that's part of the needs of the community. And so how do we find a way to efficiently move traffic? Well, if that's a corridor that's further to the west and it meets the requirements but still meets the needs of the community, then that may be the better option.
Thank you.
I know I didn't directly answer the question, but
No, but it's
without the
principle
information,
it's the principle that you've talked about, and I think that if you have a conflict between two competing ideas, where do you land in resolving that? Yeah, that's what we've been talking about.
challenged with.
Yeah, that is the challenge, yeah.
Well, Greg, I want to also echo the appreciation for putting the presentation together, for your contribution as a city to the workings of this committee. I think, as I mentioned, when Bob and I came to see y'all, y'all have a role to play in this transportation planning effort, and we appreciate your input. The problem at 3351, it seems to me, is not necessarily the size of the road between I-10 and 46. I mean, that can be expanded in ways that probably y'all can live with. But the problem already that is there is the congestion at I-10 and, right at I-10 where it backs up.
Right.
So if we add more traffic, that's only going to get worse. I mean, you have, I would think, about everything you can do at the intersection there with I-10 short of doing a full-fledged flyover interchange. And so, that's the real question I see is what do we do about that if we don't make some improvements? I'll just call it the McCarthy flyover on the west end, and we don't do the I won't name the connection in the middle, and we shove additional traffic over on 3351. We're really not solving any problems. So I don't, somehow we've got to find more than 2 points to get to I-10. So I technically generally support your concept, and I think what I've been working towards is trying to get the qualifications under which those connections could be made. Whether they can help the other two or whether we can even make the connections still remains to be seen.
Okay.
I do want to just add that, we've had a lot of discussion about intersections and how those pinch points are often much worse than the capacity of a potential capacity of a road. So a mid-block intersection of a road can carry so much more traffic than where these pinch points are. And there might be another alternative at that intersection, like a double diamond exchange that we've seen in College Station and some other places that they're starting to do, that would be maybe more efficient, that would buy some time between, now and a potential flyover exchange. So wanted to share those thoughts. The other thought that I've had related to some of what Bitsy brought up and some of the karst sensitivity features is, and this somewhat altered my perspective a little bit, is that even if we do a completely hands-off approach, they're building houses on top of all of that stuff and big and neighborhood roads all up and down all that area. And so to me, a thoroughfare planning process that guided a pathway through that minimized any kind of eminent domain shouldn't be off the table, because they're already building houses and roads on top of all of that stuff. And maybe we can try to encourage it to be done in a way that's as absolutely, follows every guideline that George Vinny and everybody would propose. So thinking out loud here, opinions aren't solid or formed. I'm just, that was a consideration that gave me some pause when I realized that it's all being developed right now.
Well, I just want to thank you, Mayor Maxton, for your very thoughtful and forward-looking presentation. I applaud you for your willingness to not only recite the facts, but propose some possible solutions. These aren't easy issues. As you know, Commissioner Durden and former Councilman Manning have chaired this effort and have tried to guide us in balancing community perspectives and values. We obviously want to do what we can to enhance mobility for current residents, but future growth is probably inevitable. I think you recognize that in your presentation. How we address that without necessarily promoting future development is really the key question. And Don, you raised the issue about trying to establish a third point of access from that general area, Ammon, State Highway 46, 3351 to I-10. I think that's going to be critical for us to try to find something that does that. And as Jonah has said, the city, through its new City of Bernie and City of Fair Oaks too, through Unified Development Codes for both entities, has the power to require developers to implement and construct roadways, right-of-ways along their developments. But I fear that those powers are not going to be sufficient in the near term to plan sufficiently for the long term. And there may be some areas where gaps will need to be filled in the meantime without waiting for development to come in and those developers to pay for that. Obviously, that is our preference, but I'm not sure in some of these areas that those gaps will be filled within the next 20 to 30 years. Jonah, I like the idea of a double diamond at 3351 and I-10, but I think that's TxDOT's purview, and I don't think anybody at TxDOT's ever raised or thought of the issue, and if they think of it today because you suggested it, it'll be 25 years before it happens. So we've got some real challenges. I think as a community we can come up with the solutions that, while may not pleasing everybody, hopefully will please the majority of residents in our various respective governmental entities. But thank you again for your time and your presentation today.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, I want to really congratulate you on a well thought out, well presented insight into the issues of concern and the interests of the Fair Oaks Ranch community. It's been real important to me to hear it, and you've done a superb job of conveying all those things. I've most appreciated the comments you make about multimodal transportation while talking about automobile-centric thoroughfares. Everything else matters too. Mobility matters across the board, and I really enjoyed seeing it be a sort of a genetic connection to your presentation. So that's good. You certainly saved the most controversial for last, which is the most controversial topic this committee is going to ever take up. And there is not going to be an easy answer. We're trying our best to be transparent and complete and learn from everybody we can, and hearing what the interests are is as important as finding out, could we do it? It begs the question, just hearing it talked about again with all the usual concerns and issues, maybe one more expert would be really good to hear. Might be flying George Venny in here again. Is there any model of transportation crossing a karst area like we're talking about that really passes environmental muster, that really is a model? Because he did raise the concern that the structural integrity of what's underneath those elevated roads is highly suspect. And when he watched the city of Austin bite the bullet and go ahead and develop a road over some similar features, he was very clear to us that it was not a good decision. It was the best decision possible under the constraints they felt like they had. They had to do something, so they did the best they could, and he did not feel like it was a model for us to consider seriously here. It was that bad. It's that sensitive. So it does leave me wondering, is there any expert who could walk in here with credibility and say, if you did this, this might be workable? I don't know. But thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
We are, I know that there was one question out of the audience. I assume you want to make a comment?
I just have a question. Is his presentation available online?
Northern is not here. She manages our website, but I believe that it will be. All of our presentations have been put online, so yes.
She's on the Zoom, sir.
Right. You going to be able to publish it, Northern?
Yes.
You'll get it.
Florida can do anything and everything.
Greg, again, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here and your staff.
Thank you, sir.
Look forward to continuing working with you.
Did I make the 30 minutes?
I think you were a little bit over, but you were. It was worth every minute of it.
All worth it. Questions?
We have one matter to discuss. Bobby Bailly has taken it upon himself at our encouragement to offer a policy recommendation regarding a future committee.
Or delegation.
A delegation. We have been running over our meetings, mostly because public comments have been running long. So could I get a kind of a hand show of how many people want to make a comment at the end so I can plan better? One. Okay. I think that we can cover you, Bobby, and then we can get Ms. McCarthy in as well. So
You got it. Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I've presented, I believe,
Turn
is
your mic on, please.
what I've developed and submitted to our two co-chairs. Can you all hear me there? Is some just draft wording for what we were discussing the last meeting, a policy recommendation, kind of telling us or telling our leadership what do we do from here. We've come up with this list of projects. We've had a lot of energy, a lot of input, a lot of brain power here, and what do we do? What do we do from here? I think the biggest issue after this is advocating for funding, advocating for regionalization, and so the policy recommendations, since we are proposing short-term and long-term projects and policy recommendations. The wording that I've provided, I think, hits everything, very close to everything, if not everything. It talks about who should be involved. It's important for Kendall County, the cities of Bernie and Fair Oaks and BISD to get together and find leadership that can advocate, that has the political wherewithal, if I may say, and the time, of course, that would be one thing, to advocate for funding sources, to advocate for making sure our plan meets with, and it's not just Kendall County, it's for Fair Oaks, it's Bear County, and it's Comal County. So that's important to me, seeing that some of these projects Mayor Maxton provided are in two other counties other than Kendall County. So we're looking for ideas or recommendations to this wording to make into the final draft of policies that we're proposing to the two mayors and the county judge. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Mr. Co-Chair? Yes. So if you don't have a copy, I think does everybody have it? Do I need to read it real quick, or?
It's on the other side of the
On
agenda, right?
The agenda, if you look at the other side of the agenda, this is what that's where you'll find it. So feel free to provide comments, and I don't think we're going to go back and forth today, but we could always incorporate some of those comments at the next meeting. Is that fair to state?
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, but I think it'd be good if somebody has a concern right now or
Sure.
recommendation or suggested change to hear it now, and then you can incorporate the universal comments that you get.
Got it. Didn't know if we had time, so.
Yeah, I don't have an objection or even an add-in. I just want to clarify that all multimodal transportation includes hike and bike, vehicles, public transportation. the
Most
whole nine-
definitely. Yes, ma'am.
All 9 yards.
Yes, ma'am. And I had another version that spelled that out, but I thought it got too long.
It may, but I do think it allows for an opportunity to generically then focus on all of the above.
Then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I would rather be inclusive than not.
Then my suggestion, I had prepared for that. My suggestion would be, let this be the policy recommendation on advocacy for funding and regionalization. But maybe we have another policy to assure that our transportation solutions include multimodal and spell out those multimodal elements in that policy recommendation.
That's a good idea.
I'd like to add one. Overall, I think this is really a good, solid start. I would really like to revisit in the second line, you talk about comprised of leaders from within the business community and other interested individuals. I really don't like that business community being front and center and the only named group. It harkens back to an image where people behind closed doors are going to be running that decision matrix. And I like the idea of what we're doing here, keeping it alive in some form with interested individuals, yes, leaders, yes, people from business. But I don't think there's any useful value in naming.
Would it just be within the community?
From leaders from within the community or from?
Leaders and citizens, leaders and community, us.
So comprised of leaders from the community, I believe, council member, I think it all incorporates what you're talking about.
It does, and equally important is that it would mimic in some form what we're doing here because it is open and transparent. The flip side of that coin is we don't have any agency in here telling us what we can and can't do. And I think we need to keep that alive. I think the whole idea of what we've done here that you gave rise to last time we met is let's keep this alive, embodies the spirit and embodies this transparency and openness. And I think that we can just.
Was there part of that needs to be included then? Transparency and openness.
Yeah.
Then.
Would that include the political representatives? And by political, I mean from each of the precincts in Kendall County, the city of Bernie Fair Oaks, just like we have here. Plus our community.
Well, I'll give you my quick reaction is the guy who really hatched the whole idea of doing this is a sitting county commissioner. He would have hatched this idea had he not been, but it gave him a platform to go get an audience. We have a fellow on this committee that's a sitting city councilman, but he was not when he joined this committee. So it happened, but it wasn't a requirement, and I believe that needs to remain true going forward.
Then I would suggest wording as follows: establish a transportation advocacy committee comprised of leaders from within the community, and I believe the rest of it hits the nail on the head, and that's it. It just says what we're doing here on this transportation committee. It's those agencies are the ones assigning people.
Yeah, leaders and other interested individuals. I don't think you need to be, then you have to define what's a leader.
I think you got the drift, and I think if you may get some other comments after the meeting, incorporate those, and then we'll adopt it on the final.
And Don, I did have one short comment, hopefully. It strikes me that, so we're talking about this committee's role being to advocate for transportation funding resources and to collaborate with these neighboring communities and cities on common regional transportation issues. I would almost like to see that tied more closely to the work of this committee, right? So like maybe advocate for the recommendations made by this committee or something along that, rather than having a group that's formed that's advocating for just kind of different stuff. Like, it would be great if this subcommittee was, if its role was find funding to enact the stuff that the transportation committee pulled together. So I don't know if that inspires any wording or thoughts. It's just something that came to mind.
It does. The committee will be charged with collaborating with other neighboring counties and cities on common regional transportation issues and to advocate for transportation funding sources.
You could just say regional,
particularly for recommendations presented by the transportation committee, etc.
You could also just squeeze it in there and say, collaborating with other neighboring counties and cities on common transportation issues identified by. Okay. Or something like that, the transportation committee.
Like that.
And to advocate for something like that.
Got
Can I
it.
just, point of clarification, I like the idea at first glance, but it seems to me what Bobby has described is much like the Alamo Regional Mobility Authority.
Sounds
is.
a lot like it.
So is that,
It is.
you're looking for something like that in Kendall County to be its own countywide? Because Bear County's already got one. Comal County, I think, has one. We don't,
We
but
do not.
that
That's
may
what
be a
it is.
concept worth considering, but it sounds much like what the Alamo RMA does.
Or actually not,
It's more Samco, isn't it?
it's Samco.
Yeah.
More Samco. The RMA is more of a state
Political subdivision.
subdivision, correct. But it's more like a mini Samco. And I read through and
What's the Sam?
active with San Antonio Mobility Council. Coalition, which was established 15 years ago, Commissioner?
More than that.
More than that?
Basically, they just advocate for funding.
They do. 20 years ago, when 2001.
Something like that.
So, and it's comprised of consulting firms, construction companies. It's a little more. It's a lot more heavy duty than I expected us to get to, but it'd be doing the same thing.
It could also, I mean, it does have a strong legislative component to it, and it could be the basis or the framework of a coalition that could advocate for enhanced environmental regulations related to transportation or implementing transportation solutions. So it's not maybe just even limited to funding.
Well, and do we want to approach the legislature at some point to ask for a regional mobility authority?
That's a possibility.
That's another option, right?
That came up at one of the meetings.
Okay.
Different, more high-profile agency, but at least start small somewhere.
Could I ask a question of clarification, Bobby? On
Yes, Steve.
the way it's written here, on the last sentence, it says specifically related to planning efforts of Kendall County. And what my fear would be is somebody read that and say, okay, well, it's just the planning efforts of the county, when in essence, you're trying to get that broader coalition, as you mentioned at the front. It's Kendall County, City of Bernie, City of Fair Oaks. So would you call it, to avoid that, establish a Kendall County Transportation Advocacy Committee? And then, because you then go on to name who that the members will represent, the political entities within the county. You follow me? Because you're linking resources to a plan. And what you do is you limit the plan to just Kendall County in this, the way it's written.
I think this committee's purview is limited to Kendall County. And so I'm not stepping out of Kendall County. That wasn't my intent.
No, I was talking about if it would, the last sentence, again, where we say planning efforts as they specifically relate to efforts of Kendall County, it's how you end the document. And my only point is, either we be specific of what that includes, expand it.
Or say within Kendall County, not
Yeah.
just Kendall County, the government agency.
Exactly.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Dale, can we solve that by saying the Kendall County region?
Yeah, you could do it as well as within the county.
Within.
I think both of those clarifications would really nail us down.
I missed it the first time, I guess.
Yeah, you could.
Within.
You could also just add planning efforts of the Kendall County Fair Oaks KCB FOTC right there as well.
That would tie it.
Thank you. Refer it to the committee?
Yeah,
Are you okay with that? Or I just don't know.
Let me see, the
If we
sentence
expect
reads.
the committee to, if we don't continue, then.
I think your idea is good, Bobby, and what I'm going to ask you to do is take all these inputs and then tweak it. Call them if you have questions.
Yes, sir.
I know that I thought this was perfect when you brought it, and I didn't think there'd be any comments. No. Good job. Appreciate you stepping
Thank you.
out.
There is a little bit of Aggie in it, so I figured there would be. But one thing hanging is that second policy recommendation of multimodal, is there, I can't recall, there is
I think
dialogue on multimodal already.
There is, so I would suggest that you emphasize that. I sensed, and maybe it was wishful thinking on my part, that there's support for a second related policy that says all of our efforts should respect and include intermodal transportation facilities.
I will offer to look at the current policies to make sure that's covered.
All right, we are at time to have our second round of public comments. And first on the list is Wanda McCarthy.
I only speak again because I heard comments that I felt like need to be addressed again. Jeff Carroll, Jonah Evans have both discussed planning with development, having a map engaged for the cities, various city thoroughfares, that when a developer comes through, that those maps are pertained to and the developer gives up the land, both for Herf Ranch and for ranches in Creekside. Those planned lines on a map, after discussion with the developer, were moved over from Herf Ranch to Ranches of Creekside. When Ranches of Creekside was developed, that line on the map moved to my address. All of the addresses up and down Ammon Road are already large lot homesteads, much like the north side of Fair Oaks Ranch. People's livelihood, their investment in the community, 5, 10, 15-acre tracts, some a little larger, some a little smaller. So those tracts are not going to be large, high-density subdivisions. It's not going to happen. The only way it's going to happen is if you bulldoze a road through. Those people no longer will live there. What's left is, what can we do with this land? A developer will take it from you. Secondly, if a raised roadbed is a viable option, rather than put it, as Bitsy said, on land that's not going to support it for miles and miles, why don't we go on the short track, as I presented previously? You're talking about already owned land. If you're going to do a raised roadbed, you already own the land. 99% of the land is either under city, county, or state. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCarthy. Any last speakers? Any closing comments from the committee members?
Well, I guess I'll make one comment, which is, kind of going to Jonah's point about, areas over karst zones are being developed. I mean, I've always been a proponent of low-impact development, stormwater infrastructure that basically filters it before it goes into the recharge zone. Whatever the county can do, whatever Fair Oaks Ranch can do in this regard, if you aren't already doing this, I don't know, the better it will be, because it's not okay that we also then poison lawns and thereby poison the water well. So.
That was it?
That was it?
Okay.
Sweet.
Well, okay, thank you. We will meet again 2 weeks from today. That is January the 18th. And we will get the agendas out a few days ahead of that, in time with, in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. If you have any specific projects that you want us to consider before then, Ms. McCarthy, we will add your recommendations to the list of projects that will be considered. I don't know that I told you that before, but please be assured that it will be added. I don't know what the disposition will be, but we will consider it. But if anybody else has specific projects that they'd like to add, Mr. Henning has one that I think has been added already, but we will consider that as well. Please get that to me by Wednesday of next week. We've got a lot of work to cover before we get through in June, And I will try to map that out, map a progress out over the next week or so. Thank you again for your contribution today, and thank you for being here.